So the next speaker, is Ramona Apostel. She comes from the Netherlands, I think. She's senior procurement consultant at Corvus Procurement Services, and she will talk to us about how to start with data innovative procurement. Ramona?
I will try to give you some guidelines how to start if you decide as contracting authority. So I'm not I know there are companies in the room, but I am addressing the contracting authorities. I will shortly introduce our company to give you an idea of what is our expertise. I will describe what should we think about in terms of procedure when we are talking about innovation procurement. And then I will go into a bit of legalities. What kind of legislation, what kind of legal obligations do you have as contracting authority, and you have to take those into account when preparing your innovation procurement of data. And then I will, throughout my presentation, I will have examples. And I will also draw some conclusions at the end. We are a small consultancy firm, legal and economic consultancy for procurement. We advise procuring authorities throughout Europe and European agencies. And we are, for example, I'm also a research fellow at Maastricht School of Management, where we have set up a chair for innovation procurement. So we like to create these flows between research, academics, and practice. Whatever we discover in practice is not working, we try to research it in depth and to return the lessons learned to practice. And we have several partners. The most recent ones are University of Zaragoza, Spain, and the Geronimus Academy of Data Science in the Netherlands. What I want, how many contracting authorities are there in the room besides Delft? Okay, very nice. My company has been appointed again to deliver the EAFIP initiative by DigiConnect. We have done this between 2015 and 2018. We were the appointed experts by the Commission to draft on the one side toolkits on how to go about innovation procurement, and second, so we drafted this toolkit and the methodology, stepwise methodology. On the other side, we assisted 12 innovative projects, procurements in Europe. Now there is this is the follow-up of the EAFIP initiative, so we have been appointed again for 2 years to support 3 projects per year. So there will be 5 days of assistance, free assistance for contracting authorities who can propose a good project that has an innovative component and also some relation to ICT. But ICT is a very broad term, so please click on the link and also spread the word with your colleagues. Hopefully we will see you again during this project. What are we talking about? I will go very quickly through this, probably as a contracting authority, but also as a company involved in who submits offers in innovation procurement. You might be familiar with this 2 procedures. The first, until up to the line, is the pre-commercial procurement, where you are where the contracting authority is looking for a solution that is not available on the market and goes through 3 development stages to bring this solution to the market and to be able to use it. At the end of the pre-commercial procurement, they have to reopen the market and look whether there have been by that time other solutions that have been developed outside the PCP and award to the best one. The directives of 2014, procurement directives, have introduced a 3rd procedure, that is the innovation partnership. You might also have heard of it, that combines these 2 stages, the development and the commercial deployment. There's much to say about the differences and which kind of companies, bigger, smaller, the innovation partnership favors compared to splitting in two phases. But this is for another time. Now, this gives you an idea at what technology readiness level as a contracting authority you should think about starting with a pre-commercial procurement or with the procurement of innovative solutions. And also on the left side here you see how you discover what is the technological readiness level of a solution that you have in mind. By looking at publications, patents, and standards. And how do you do this? It sounds very easy in theory. Well, this is the business case methodology that we, Corvus, with our daughter company Vitrec, developed based on the IAFIP knowledge we collected. And it defines the steps you have to follow when you want to deploy an innovation procurement. Tiffen has talked a lot about needs identification and open market consultation. What I showed you earlier here on the left side with the technology readiness level falls under the prior art analysis and analysis of the standards landscape. We, for example, we use a data analytics tool, it's called iPolitics, to discover which solutions are out there on the market, what patents are interesting for what we have in mind. And this data analytics tool gets us access to 90 billion patents worldwide, and also standards. Basically, it's a tool that crawls the whole internet, and with a very nice visualization, allows us to identify, based on keywords, what are the most relevant patents you have to take into account when preparing for an innovation procurement, and what standards. Oh, sorry. Yes, I'm going out of... and then another step that Tiffen has not mentioned is the business case. So, or you did actually mention. So, calculate. It was in French, so my French is not as good. Also based on what you presume, based on what you gather in terms of information from the market, based on risks that you conclude, all this data, you translate those into costs and risks and benefits, and you conclude on which direction you should take. What would be the most beneficial for you to undertake? But we are here to talk about data innovation procurement, and it is it is a field that is a trend. It is very hype and happening, and everybody is talking about government having a large amount of data, increasingly more data that is coming available, and how to make smart use of this data in order to improve your decision-making processes, in order to stimulate the economic growth in your region and in your country. When we talk about data, for example, you can think of concretely, you are a water company and you have a sewage water company, and you have pipes throughout the region, and you know that fixing leakages once they have happened costs a lot of money. So you start placing sensors throughout your network and you gather all this information regarding the flows, and you try to make sense of this data you are having and try to predict, for example, leakages before they take place. Because you make your business case calculation, and you conclude that reparation maintenance is much cheaper than actually cleaning after a major leakage. or you want to, as a regional authority, you want to predict where criminality, trends in criminality in your region. So you look at income data, or you look at education data. You have to be, of course, very careful what kind of data. We all know that privacy regulation is very important. So how do you do this? So you feel, you research, and you know that you could do a lot and you could benefit from data analytics. You know you have a lot of data. You could go about it in two ways. You can think, okay, per need, I ask the market to tell me what data they need. They build their own database, they put all the data they need, I provide it to them, and then they develop these nice analytic tools that predicts me stuff, and I can take very well-informed decisions. So every time you would have this market party that would develop this database, most probably proprietary, because it would cost you too much to own it yourself. There's an alternative way to go about it. You can decide to set up your own platform and to make available on this platform all the data you have. And if you can, and allow the market parties to develop applications by picking whatever data they find interesting and useful, and they can use for developing this application. You can think in terms of the operating systems on your phone. You have, perhaps most of you, an iPhone or a Samsung, and you have the app stores. So you know that there is a platform that these companies, phone companies, offer, and that market parties can use to integrate their own apps, which increases competition and decreases your cost if you're a contracting authority. This platform, you can make it as open as you want. You can have it proprietary, own it, and pay for maintenance, or you can have it even open source and create an open source community that takes care of that. That would change the costs. So this is to get you started on the idea of how you could think about data innovation procurement. What I wanna pause here on the go a little back to the value of it, of having doing something with the data. According to the European policymakers, the value of EU data market was in 2016 60 billion, and they expect that this would increase by 46 billion by 2020. So having this data, having these companies using the data and developing applications and services has a huge value for the economy. It has a value for the contracting authority if you think of a concrete need, but the indirect effects are very large for the whole economy. What I didn't tell you related to the previous slide is that this platform having, for example, the US Army has developed this government of the shelf platform. They chose for an open source platform. But we also have an example in Europe of the Helsinki region in Finland. They have also developed this platform on which they place all the data they have available, and they allow suppliers to develop private applications that they offer to private customers. So it's not all about having services for yourself as contracting authority. You can think broader in terms of allowing companies to create economic growth, and at the same time, from time to time, you can ask the market to develop specific applications. We are talking also about open data. Okay. Because you can't you can't use data on which third-party rights pose. So as a government, you have to be very careful what you place on these platforms. You have to, on the one side, look at the data you already have, look at whether you can qualify it as open data. On the other side, you can have a policy that you set for your future. So whatever contract you're closing with the market for that involves collection of data, make sure you have a license that is as open as possible, which involves your rights to reuse the data, that mandates those that use the data and modify to make it available again under the same open conditions. For example, the Dutch government has a nationwide policy to make all government data collected by the government or in service for the government under the Common Creative Zero. This is the most permissive open source license for data. I will go a bit quicker because it's just less than 5 minutes. This is a legal environment. There's lots of legislation and it's all in under development. You know for sure the GDPR, the public open data. The old one is the reuse of public information. The new proposal here that has just been adopted last month introduces also the lays the attention on the open data. The Inspire directive that mandates or stimulates the member states to collect information regarding the environment and put it in a common database at European level. The Cybersecurity Critical Infrastructure Directive, NIS directive, that mandates contracting authorities that manage critical infrastructure to notify central national authorities regarding cyber threats or attacks. The Cybersecurity Act, giving the European Union agency ENISA more competencies and powers to support member states in being prepared for cyber threats and attacks. We also have Trade Secrets Directive and Database Directive, clarifying who owns what in terms of database, in terms of rights on data. But when you are a contracting authority, you have to make sure, you also have, I haven't put it here, regulation on the free flow of non-personal data. For example, regarding cloud services. And that one will be enforced in May this year and contains a specific obligation for contracting authorities, for example, to not impose localization requirements on cloud, on the data in the cloud. So you're not allowed from May this year as contracting authority to say, I want this data, if it's in the cloud, I want it to be located, the servers have to be located in my country, because unless you have very serious security grounds to justify that. On the other side, that same regulation stimulates market parties to set up codes of conduct and to facilitate access of their customers to this data. So it works on both sides to improve the environment. The last thing I want to tell you is about, to give you an example of what the new proposal, Open Data and Public Sector Information Directive. This is the directive that was for the first time adopted in Europe in 2003 and is the basis of stimulating the member states to make their data available to the market. Because it's data they collected, for example, with taxpayers' money. It's data we have paid for, and then why not make it available? Why should they charge large amounts? So the new directive tries to lower the access to government data and tries to mandate availability of high-value data sets free of charge by the government, and stimulates member states to make this data available in a very accessible way for companies, and also brings under its scope new public authorities, utilities that have very valuable data at their disposal, to stimulate them to share that data. They bring under the scope also the research data that is paid with government money, that should also be made available, and they prohibit exclusive arrangements. So government is not allowed to give to one market party data and exclude others from accessing it. I think, of course, you have the European procurement directive and state aid that you have to consider in your procurement, but this is not, there's no place in this presentation for this. I already discussed this, so your options for procurement, and you can watch it later. This is the example I mentioned you on the sewage water company that uses data analytics. And my conclusions are, be aware of what you have in terms of data, make a plan on how you want to go about, follow the steps of the preparatory phase of data innovation procurement, and have a strategy. And this is a very good basis for stimulating market parties to come up with innovative solutions for public needs. Thank you.